I selected a reading for Ruth's talk, and it's called True Belonging by Brené Brown. True belonging is the spiritual practice of believing in and belonging to yourself so deeply that you can share your most authentic self with the world and find sacredness in both being a part of something and standing alone in the wilderness. True belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are. So I'm going to introduce Reverend Dr. Ruth Miller, who is going to share a message with us, understanding the power of belonging. And as you always hear from me when Reverend Dr. Ruth is speaking for us, she always raises me up. I always end up much happier and much better sense of well-being when I leave after listening to her talks. And I also learn a lot. So here I'd like to introduce Reverend Dr. Ruth Miller with Understanding the Power of Belonging.
Thank you, dear. Oh, it's a very different room from up here. So good to be with you in all the wonderful ways we have known each other and come together. It is beautiful. Belonging is something that if you went into school prior to about 1965, you probably never heard about it in psychology. Abraham Maslow actually created that hierarchy of needs in 1943. But we have this culture and kind of human process where it takes about 75 years for something to become normal. So belonging didn't really become normal until after the turn of the century. This one. So what he was doing was, in a world where it was all about chemistry, not sexual chemistry, but biological chemistry and so on, that he was saying, wait a minute, we're leaving something out in that world of psychology. They were trying to be very hard science. And Maslow actually was the founder of the American Humanistic Psychology Association, the Association for Humanistic Psychology. He was kind of the person who stood for very much the way Brené talked about it. He was so accepting of self. He could stand on his own for something. And his hierarchy of needs became the way everyone understood what it was that he stood for. And that is, humanity is an organism that has also human and perhaps superhuman qualities and needs and functions. And that was totally beyond the ken of the psychologists of his day. And what he was attempting to do was to get us to realize that if we treat everyone as a biochemical machine, it doesn't work. And what did happen as a result of his work was education was transformed, organizational processes were transformed, many things were shifted and changed because he said, if you don't acknowledge the full human, you're in trouble. Now of course, with everything that involves this mind, this body, this spirit, there are chemical actions and reactions and interactions that happen. And a lot of them have to do with whether those fundamental needs that Maslow talked about are being satisfied. Yeah, the first level of needs are you've got enough food and shelter and clothing to be able to survive. And the body is going to act in different ways if those needs are not being met. But if they are being met, then the person can show up in a reasonably whole, functioning way, even if it does have long COVID, wherever my health went. Right? Food, clothing, and shelter. Necessity for being well, necessity for being good, effective labor, necessity for functioning in this world. And then he talked about the next level of needs that had to do with security. Feeling like it's safe to get up out of bed, to walk out the door. Feeling like the people around you are supporting you rather than about to harm you. And one of the issues that we're facing in the world today is an increasing number of people not feeling that security in the United States. And so we need to realize that that second tier of needs is not being met, and therefore they are not going to be able to function fully, either physiologically or socially. So just to be aware that if someone is feeling that kind of insecurity, we all pay the price, sadly. So part of our job is to make sure they do. That's what community does, right? That's why then when the New Deal happened in the 30s, prior to Maslow's writing, the Social Security system was created so that people knew they could be secure, therefore they could function effectively as citizens and as producers in this culture and country. The next level is what he called belonging. And I thought I would address it for a number of reasons. One thing, it's our theme. But the other piece is, I think we haven't quite got it right. There's so many levels to what belonging is and can be. And Brené Brown is actually right on, and that was one of the quotes I did have for my talk, so this is cool. And I want to look at the fact that sometimes people are saying, I need community, when they're actually saying, I need belonging. All right? So, belonging means being accepted for your true self. It means fostering connection and wholeness. In some ways, Unitarian Universalists are all about this, but we don't talk about it very much. We talk about honoring the diversity and accepting each individual. Those are in our first two principles. And there is a word community down there in the fifth principle where we promote the democratic process and the goal of a global community. But there isn't that. We come together so that our true selves are honored. We can feel whole, we can feel connected. And I think that's why everyone's in this room today, am I right? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we don't come here for community, we come here for belonging. We come here to be able to have the neuropsychochemical reactions that go on in the body when the brain gets, oh, I'm safe, I'm accepted. Bingo, 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 all kinds of good things happen. Yeah, that's what we're going for. Unfortunately, our media can't tell the difference between belonging and fitting in. Most of us have been in middle school, and we know what it means to fit in or not. And I'm guessing virtually everyone in this room did not. Because we tended to think about things. And you can't think about things and fit in. It just doesn't work. So according to Psychology Today, back in 2012, fitting in requires changing yourself to meet perceived expectations. which leads, according to Psychology Today, to exhaustion and a hollow feeling. I remember walking home from school and feeling the shift in my body from how I felt at school to how I felt at home. Does anyone remember that?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a 15-minute, maybe 10-minute, 15-minute walk. For me, it was 20, 25. And I could feel how everything that I had adjusted to here had to be put aside so that everything I needed to be here could be here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fitting in leads to a sense of exhaustion and hollow feeling. It says, fitting in is about performance and, quote, doing what you need to be liked. And I would say that for some of us, we were doing what we needed to feel loved at home, as well as doing what we needed to feel to be liked to feel liked at school. So something to be aware of. Most of us have spent most of our life trying to fit in and not being able to. And what the UUs offer is belonging. The opportunity to be who we truly are. Now, almost every talk, unfortunately, I have to go back to the great health challenge in my life. And one of the things that got me out of that, got me past that 6-month prognosis, was realizing it was possible to just be me. It was possible to just be me. Really? In our world? Wow. And I started to structure my life in a way that I would be able to simply show up as who I am. It meant I had to leave academia. It meant I had to stop being a consultant to major financial organizations. It meant a number of things I had to let go of because in those environments it wasn't possible. I had to fit in to do the work there. Wow. So as I began to realize that I could structure my life so I could just show up as me, thank you all very much. I began to look at what my life needed to be. And I began to let go of that and take on this, and let go of that and take on this. And my relationships changed because, well, I didn't fit in anymore. Oh my goodness. I wasn't adjusting, I wasn't changing myself to meet perceived expectations. And I got well. Strongly recommend this treatment plan. Yeah. So now we're beginning to realize in the last 10, 15 years, we're beginning to realize that not only was Maslow correct in saying this is a fundamental need, he was pointing to something far beyond that. So this would continue to be the current psychology today. There's growing recognition that belonging matters not just for our emotional well-being, but for our physical health, the health of our social discourse, and even of our economic systems. If I am being fully who I am, then you're getting all my gifts and all my talents. And I'm not just doing the little bit necessary to get by or that you think is all you want, right? So I'm improving the economic production and distribution of goods and services, which is what an economic system is, just by being fully who I am, bringing all my talents to the table and showing up. Yeah? It says belonging is now a central focus in psychology. I didn't include it in the notes, but for some reason I get to say it. the end of that sentence in the Psychology Today article in 2012 was, and has led to the development of a $1.5 billion industry in diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Isn't that interesting? A whole industry that shut down when we stopped saying that's important. Woo! Yeah. So there's more though than that sense that I get to be with people and connect and I get to be who I am. There's this sense of rootedness. There's a sense of I have power in this situation. I'm not just kind of trying to figure out how to fit in, trying to figure out. No, I actually have power in it. So yes, belonging is connection to other people, but also to place, power, and purpose. Purpose. In order for me to be my authentic self, I have to know why I'm here and be aligned with only that. If I'm trying to make someone else's purpose, it ain't me, right? So I need to be aligned with the power of purpose, the process that is unfolding here, and the process always includes the place. So part of the reason that you use honor the place, we honor the people who stewarded this land before we did, is to help us remember we are rooted in this place too, as they were. Indigenous people know this very well, and in fact, in many languages, there is no word for other. One of my favorites is the folks that we call Alroots, the people who live up on the Aleutian Islands. Their greeting is, hello, my other self. Isn't that cool? There are other Northwest Coast Indigenous peoples that don't ask how you are, they ask, how are the connections? Are you connected? Do you feel belonging? If you are, then you are well and whole. Right? That's how you get that wholeness. In the ancient Chinese, Zheng Yi declared that a person who achieves that state that is called Ren in China regards heaven, earth, and all things as one body. There is nothing not oneself. There is no other. So belonging does not imply other. Fitting in does, right? Community often does too. You're in my community or you're not. So belonging is something that transcends the specifics of the moment. And it's not whether you're alone or not. You can be totally isolated physically and totally belonging at the same time. Nelson Mandela is a marvelous example of that. You know, when he was in that awful place, that prison, I think it was called Robben Island. Yeah. They did everything they could to isolate him. I mean, months. And someone, after he was back out and about and actually in this country, asked him about how he's managed to feel during that period where he was isolated. He says, I was never alone. I was never isolated. He said, each day he and his brothers served the cause of his people's freedom. Right? On Robben Island, he said, we were all brothers working together with a common purpose. I was never alone. I have seen isolation. I have seen it in the child with AIDS whom no one in the village will love or care for, or touch, or feed, or shelter. I have seen isolation. It is very bad. But I was never alone. And that was because he felt so much a part of the traditions and the power and the purpose that he was committed to and he felt the commitment with others. Now, they also had a few minor tricks, like African drum beats that tell people things that the Anglos who were trying to control them had no idea what they were saying, right? So you could pound on the wall a little bit, or on, hit something that others could hear, and everyone would know what the message was. Helps a lot. But never did he feel isolated, even though he was kept away from everyone else, because he belonged. He belonged to the land, he belonged to the traditions, he belonged to the people, he belonged to the purpose that they shared. And that's how he came out of that relatively unscathed. Yes? Amazing man. Amazing man. Well, I'll skip over my Brene Brown quote. So we have something that goes on in a congregation or a fellowship or a community like this one. And that is, we want everyone to feel like they can belong, right? We can't just assume that's going to happen, no. It requires an active process, a process that could be called building belonging. Yeah? And it is a building process. There's a UU minister, Adam O'Dell. He says you have to learn about the people already in your community and where they might be disconnected. You can't connect if you are already disconnected, right? You have to learn about the new people entering your community and understand them. You have to learn how all these people fit together in the wider scheme of your fellowship or congregation, its principles and practices. And it's critical, recognizing Maslow's hierarchy, that everyone feels safe. And that's what we do so well here. Yeah? We all feel safe. We feel safe to show up as we are showing up, whatever that may be, which allows then for us to feel the connectedness and get in touch with the shared purpose of our coming together. Yes. And it's in that sense of connectedness in a shared purpose that our power lies. Individually, we all have power. We have all the power we need to create the life that we individually are ready to experience. That is the nature of the universe. There is so much stuff supporting that right now. And collectively, our power is in our shared purpose and activity. And this wonderful sale that I got kept away from yesterday that I intended to be part of, was a perfect example of that. The power of coming together with shared purpose so that everyone wins. And that's a huge part of our purpose, is that everybody gains from every interaction. Everyone becomes more of what they would like to be and experiences more of what they'd like to experience because we are here being who we are in this place. Yes? Yes. 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 And as we are building this sense of whatever it is that we're belonging to, we have this interesting thing going on because we are both the builder, as Adam O'Dell says. We are both the builder and the brick. We are that which is making up the whole thing that we're all belonging to. So it's an interesting trick to be self-aware sufficiently to be able to be aware sufficiently of where possible disconnects may be happening, to be able to bridge those disconnects so that we're all feeling like we belong. He says, especially in leadership, it's a delicate balance, figuring out how we can both reflect our congregations and play to our own strengths, without centering ourselves, becoming the center of it, right? Well, what's really cool about a lay-led organization, we're all the leaders, and none of us want to make it about us. We all want it to be about all of us. And that's, I think, a huge part of what makes Futh so special. And can make any group of people special. When we all take the responsibility to be the builder as well as the brick, to be part of the system as well as to facilitate the system, when we all can be authentically present to the moment, to the group, to the situation, and be aware of the connections and the possible disconnections and bridge the disconnects from our authentic self. Not because there is some rule we have to follow, not because there is a policy we have to commit to, but because our authentic self knows how important and how wonderful belonging is. And we can bring it to every moment. Brené Brown told us, as Ali said, true belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are. And who you are is at one with all beingness everywhere. Universalist. We're not just Unitarian, we are also Universalist. We are the one that is. The one whole that is. And so some of you may be aware of this marvelous philosopher / priest, David Steindl-Rast. Mm-hmm. Every one of us is a mystic because we have this experience of the one that we are. In short, we can't not belong. We just get to let go of any idea that we had to fit in to be okay and show up as we truly are. Thank you very much.